I spend all year being critical and taking super deep looks at products and tools for you to use to master your tech or build better content, be a better content creator, and so on. And sometimes there's just a product, an idea that is so good that you really don't have a ton of critical stuff to say about it. And it's that time of the year. It is Merry Shillsmas. It is the end of the year where everyone's feeling all sappy and warmed up, and they're more comfortable talking about the products they love instead of the dogpiling on things that need dogpiled on. And that's what we've done here today. I've assembled a crew of the elite of my Discord server at discord.gg/EposVox to talk about our gadget of the year, so to speak. We have a game of the year video over on Lost Saves, including a lot more of the community members from our Discord, which you should join so you can be a part of things like this. Link in the description. And go check out the game of the year video. But this is about the gadgets of the year, and we've got some weird choices this year, but I'm stoked to share them with you regardless. This video is sponsored by GiveWell. Find out how to donate to the highest impact charities and get your donation matched up to $100 at the end of the video.
Laptops kind of suck, but being stuck at my desk literally all day and night because a large portion of my life revolves around having access to screens sucks even more. That's why my first gadget of the year is the 12-inch iPad Pro, big enough to be a laptop replacement, but tied down enough in its own ecosystem that it functions exactly as intended.
Okay, how exactly did a tablet rank higher than me?
Well, Siri, this is because the iPad is exactly what I needed as creative this year. While most people look at iPads and see a tablet with a bunch of accessories, I saw a laptop replacement. And after years of being dissatisfied with both Mac and Windows laptops offerings, I figured what could possibly go wrong, besides the fact that I spent $2,000 on the thing. The Magic Keyboard turns this device into something I can use for my work, my writing, and even making my YouTube videos with DaVinci Resolve coming out soon. It's literally my ultimate portable workstation, at least for me. I'm not saying it's for everybody.
I'm literally the world's most sophisticated AI. This thing's software can't even keep up with me.
Well, with the launch of iOS 16 this year, it brought us Stage Manager, which I know a lot of people have complaints about, but I love it. It's the perfect way to manage my Windows on a device that I still often choose to use the touchscreen over the trackpad. iOS 16 also brought us better file management, which has been great for sorting all my work projects from my personal ones on my iCloud. The Apple Pencil, well, it sure does exist. I bought one because everyone seems to get one, but if you're like me and don't handwrite notes and just want a laptop replacement, I suggest skipping it and just getting the next storage tier. That said, the paper-like screen protector, it is as good as they say. The few times I've had to use my Apple Pencil with this third-party steel nib, it really feels like I'm writing a pen on paper, and it's holding up just fine. It's kind of a wild feeling, actually.
Yeah, okay. I guess it's kind of cool.
Ultimately, this thing got me away from my desk after feeling landlocked to it for the last 3 years of COVID and working from home. I can spend time on the couch and with my wife and still be able to write. I can work from a coffee shop again without having to worry about weird Windows or Mac OS issues, and I don't have to sit at my desk when I want to draw. It's super freeing, and honestly, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
Gamers, my name's Gregandcin, and my gadget of the year is this bad boy. It is the GameStop HD System Selector, model number BB016. This was also branded under Pelican as the HD System Selector PL970. I like this because it's a passive switch, so it doesn't need any external power, just plug in everything and it works. If you're into any consoles from the 7th generation and under, this is probably the best AV switch you can get. It has 4 inputs, 3 of which support composite, S-Video, and component, and they also have a network switch on it. It's only a 110 network switch, but for any of the consoles that do have networking support, it's completely fine. The 4th input on the front only supports composite and S-Video, so if you have a system that just doesn't have support for component, just throw it right there. While you can just hook all your consoles up directly to this, throw it onto your TV, bada bing, bada boom. Where I think this thing truly shines is in retro scaler situations where you only have one input of one type. For scalers like the RetroTink 5X, you can just plug everything into there from this one output, but you might have to pigtail connect the audio inputs since there are 2 separate outputs. This is also a great way to get more inputs if you have an old school CRT, HD CRT, or one of those professional video monitors. If all your consoles are just outputting component and you don't need the network switch, you could probably just get one of those generic switchers. But for me, I have a couple of consoles which have component and a couple with composite currently, so this is really nice for me. 4 buttons on the top are also super easy to press, and there's just a little green thing that pops up saying, you know, which console is on. This does have changeable face plates for the inputs, but considering most of these aren't new in stock and they're probably more than 15 years old, you're not going to get any new face plates. You can find these all over eBay, and they range anywhere from $20 to $50 with shipping. Anyways, that's all for me. You can find me at youtube.com/Gregandcin, and thanks to Addy for having me on.
This $150 lens might be the best lens ever made. It's so good they shot the Batman with it. In fact, every photo you take with it is the best photo you've ever taken. This is the Helios 44. That intro is hogwash, but this is the Helios 44 and I absolutely adore it. It's my gadget of the year for a really good reason, and that's because look at the example images. They're really nice. And the thing that this lens does is something that every gear recommendation video is trying to do for you, and that's find the piece of gear that no matter when you use it and what situation you use it, you love the result. And listen, when I go to do a photo shoot, I'm taking lots of glass with me. I got all of the Fuji stuff, I got 7 Artisans, I got Viltrox, but when I shoot with this and I go to look at the photos afterwards in the edit process, these photos are the ones I love 9 times out of 10. It's just, they hit different. They look beautiful. They are just glorious images. And that's a really rare thing, to have a piece of kit in your gear that is just like the one. And this is the one for me. But the cool thing is, it doesn't stop there. This lens also has a really interesting backstory that explains why they're so affordable on eBay and why they're so good. So it's true, you can get this lens on eBay for between $100 and $150. And it's also true that they shot the Batman on one of these. They shot that on the Helios 44 too. This is the Helios 44 M-4, which is a slightly more modernized version of that lens, a little more refined, but basically the same in terms of like the look you're getting. And the thing is, the way this lens came about is that Germany was pulling their Nazi shit during World War II. And Russia wasn't having it anymore, so they invaded Germany. And when they got there, they found this little company called Zeiss, right? They found their manufacturing facilities. And if you don't know, Zeiss was like the premier optics manufacturer in the world at the time. And to this day, they are one of the top lens makers in the world. Well, Russia found their factories and their documentation and stole all that shit, took it back to Russia. And this lens is essentially a copy of a Zeiss design made with stolen Zeiss hardware in Russia, by Russia, for Russia. And it was incredibly popular. So even to this day, even though they stopped making this lens in like the 80s, there are still millions of them floating around, and you can get them on eBay in all sorts of various conditions for like $100 to $150. And I mean, this is $100, perfect working condition, no optical issues whatsoever. Cannot recommend it enough. It's a lens that gives you absolutely beautiful results and has a really interesting backstory, and I love talking about it. So that's my pick for Gadget of the Year. I'm Technically Alex. Thank you for watching.
Welcome to the new era of handheld gaming. Introducing the Valve Steam Deck, my ultimate gaming gadget of 2022. The AMD APU in this deck has me playing through my Steam library at first, but being able to play games like Resident Evil 3, Uncharted, and Final Fantasy VII Remake shows the horsepower this handheld has got. Then it hit me. Since the Steam Deck is a PC, you can go down a rabbit hole of gaming via emulation. PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and even some PlayStation 3 games can be played on the Steam Deck. Using EmuDeck and Emulation Station Desktop Edition, the Steam Deck has become my main travel device. I sold my old gaming laptop for the Steam Deck. That's how much I love this thing. Holding the Steam Deck in my hands took some time to get used to, even though it's basically a Nintendo Switch, but thicker, or as the memes call it, the Nintendo Switch Pro. The back buttons are my only gripe. At first, I was touching the far side of the button towards the handles. Instead, you need to actually press the inside flat part of the button. I blame that on my years of playing with scuff controllers and its back paddles. With the Steam Deck, the customization option is endless. Hell, I even cut down a 1TB M.2 SSD just to fit it into the deck. So with that increase of internal storage and a 512GB micro SD, I can now dual boot into Windows to deal with those pesky anti-cheat games that is not supported in SteamOS. Also with the additional storage, I can play games outside of Steam using things like the Heroic Launcher, which allows me to access my games on the good old Game Store and the Epic Game Store. One of my favorite things on the deck I've been playing recently is Call of Duty Zombies. Way back when on iOS devices, they had the original World at War and Black Ops 1 Zombies apps, and I remember spending hours in bed playing said games using touchscreen controls on my iPod Touch 2nd Gen. So it's so nostalgic for me to play it handheld again. I suggest getting the Black Ops 3 Zombies Chronicles edition for a good collection of zombie maps and available mods to the game. To complete my Steam Deck, my favorite accessories include any USB-C dock as long as it supports the power delivery charging, a Steam Deck skin, I'm using one from D-Brand, a metal kickstand to prop up the deck, a small home theater PC Bluetooth keyboard, a DualSense controller, a external power bank for those long travels, and finally Razer's universal grip tape. The grip tape and deck skin allows me to fully use the Steam Deck like a controller how I want it to, minus of course no trigger stops, which would greatly help in FPS shooters. So why settle for the ordinary gaming setup when you can have the ultimate gaming gadget of 2022? Get the Valve Steam Deck today and take your handheld gaming experience to the next level.
My gadget of the year is the Alienware QD OLED monitor, the A32DW, whatever that, you know the one. It is truly a phenomenal monitor. I tried to get my hands on this after my big CRT versus LCD video of the year. I try to do those every couple of years and ended up convincing myself through that process to put my CRT back on my main gaming desk and commit to it. And in that video, I had Linus on, and he talked about how monitors like the QD OLED panel really kind of edged out any benefits he could possibly see from CRTs. And granted, he wasn't a CRT enthusiast. I wasn't entirely going to take that without, some grains of salt, but it got me curious. And so I tried it out, and I've been using it for the past 6 months. It is the best computer monitor that possibly exists when it works. QD OLED is basically OLED just with a quantum dot layer, which helps with brightness and white levels, things like that, with an extra monochromatic light layer. And it is kind of the future of computer monitor panels, in my opinion. I, at this point, will not buy a display for myself or anyone that I care about that isn't on the lowest of like $100 era tier of budget. I won't buy an LCD anymore. OLED is the way to go, and QD OLED seems to be the next best thing to kind of make it more usable. This panel is gorgeous. The HDR performance is absolutely brilliant. The colors pop. Blacks are black, whites are pure white, which is great in a lot of games, especially combined with Windows 11's Auto HDR feature, which is S tier in 99% of the cases. There are some cases like playing older Battlefield titles which work with Auto HDR, but if you get flashbanged or something, there isn't anything in that Auto HDR pipeline, at least as of July, whenever I last played around with that particular set of games. You get flashbanged and it is pure white at maximum brightness that you have set of the display, which is basically like getting flashbanged in real life. That part was kind of annoying. I was literally like putting my hand up to the monitor whenever that happened to keep from blinding myself. But it is gorgeous. It is phenomenal. It is as low response as it possibly gets, which I tested in my OLED versus LCD versus CRT video I'll have linked below. It is truly the best gaming monitor you could probably use in terms of panel quality and all of that. The problem is the firmware. The firmware isn't user upgradable. You would have to send it off to Alienware to get upgraded, and they have revised a lot of this in the new revision that they released, which is also cheaper, as Linus covered in the early adopter syndrome sucks thing. And yeah, if you got one of these, you paid the early adopter tax because the firmware is incredibly buggy. There's lots of issues with like color fringing on text because it uses a slightly different subpixel layout that doesn't report correctly to Windows sometimes. This seems to be intermittent. And so I have a friend who has to use a whole separate program to like tell Windows the subpixel layout to get the color fringing to go away on text, or else they get headaches. I don't notice it a lot of the times, but then it pops up every so often and I'm like, why is this happening? Really annoying. Then there's some issues with the menus themselves just aren't super great. The feature layout isn't super great. There's a lot of issues with the pixel refresh and the panel refresh that it does to keep from having burn-in. It's only supposed to do it every so often, and when it does prompt it, it's supposed to do a pixel refresh, as that's a quicker process versus a full panel refresh, which takes upwards of 10+ minutes. And 99% of the time, if my computer lets the display go to sleep, which I'm trying to be very aggressive with to avoid burn-in, it prompts for that panel refresh and catches me sometimes where it ends up auto doing it, and I have to wait to use my display for 8 to 10 minutes, which is really annoying. There's lots of little firmware quirks like that, which drive me nuts. And of course, you get a little bit better performance if you drop it down to 120 hertz instead of the full refresh rate, but still, that's 3440 by 1440 at 120 hertz in a beautiful, densely packed panel with low response times. I took the CRT off of my desk. Now I'm putting it back on because I took it off because I was doing a side-by-side with my 1440p 240 hertz monitor, the Samsung G7 that I had picked up and then discovered kind of sucks. And that's been side-by-side with the ultra-wide. I'm actually removing that and putting the CRT back side-by-side with the ultra-wide, which is kind of an unwieldy mess. But this monitor is incredible, and I would advise anyone in a position to do so to seek out OLED or QD-OLED for the next monitor. My only complaint really is just, I'm not an ultra-wide fan. I would rather have this in a 1440p 240-ish hertz 16:9 panel or a 4K 120 panel instead of ultra-wide, but I haven't gotten around to reviewing this yet, so this is my review of it. I don't have much more to say other than this is the best. Like, the stand is massive and takes up most of my desk, and that's really annoying. The monitor itself is obviously massive and takes up a lot of space. The curve is fine, it's whatever. Performance and color and like gaming results, I've never used a better display, and I've spent 6 months kind of going back and forth trying to figure out how I write a review that doesn't just sound like a big sponsored thing, and I never figured it out. So it's here. Happy Shillsmas. If you want the best possible monitor, get that. Although there's, like I said, there's a new one which is cheaper because it doesn't have the full G-Sync thing, which this one's only technically, like, it's G-Sync capable, but it's still like one of the weird compatible things. It's complicated. G-Sync isn't perfect on it. G-Sync itself has lots of issues, like there's lots of flickering when certain desktop programs open and stuff like that, and that's driving me nuts. I really thought a proper G-Sync display would fix a lot of that, and it doesn't. And of course, you have to limit your game to keep from running over the refresh rate, but it is nothing, you know, no holding back, like the best possible PC gaming experience you could possibly have. You just got to pay for it. So pretty wild stuff. If you're getting a 4090 or a 4080 and you can drive the insane frame rates it can, that's what you get.
As we close the book on 2022, I find myself looking back on all the great tech that's come my way. Huge leaps in quality for monitors, new graphics cards, new CPUs, several new handheld platforms like the Analog Pocket and Steam Deck. But more than anything, no single device has had such a significant impact on me as the one that you're seeing on the screen right now. This is the Aorus FO48U, a 48-inch 4K 120Hz OLED gaming monitor. Now, I'm no stranger to high refresh rate gaming. I've been running 144Hz since 2014, and even before that, I had held out for a long time sticking with my CRT because it could do 100Hz. But since 2020, I had began the transition away from traditional LCD-based monitors and TVs, starting with the LG CX in my living room. That was the moment I knew I needed this tech on my desk. Finally, a 4K 120Hz OLED panel, and it comes in more desk-manageable sizes. I was sold. But having seen videos from LTT, Barnacules, and Level 1 Techs, who all attempted to use these TVs as monitors, it became clear that simply grabbing this TV wasn't going to cut it. Thankfully, LG Display worked their magic and began working with partners, and thus, the Aorus FO48U is born. Using the same great tech found in LG's flagship OLED TVs, but with all the TV bloat stripped out, a great suite of monitor-specific features, DisplayPort 1.4, HDMI 2.1, and a USB hub just to top it all off. Flash forward to mid-2022, and Newegg is running sales on all Gigabyte products, this monitor being one of them. I jumped at the chance to have this on my desk, and I couldn't be happier. Everything I play on this has been incredibly immersive, with corner-to-corner picture fully filling my periphery. The closest thing I can compare this to is running a video inside of a VR headset. Real-time strategy games, shooters, RPGs, racing games, they're all beautiful and highly immersive. And the 120Hz refresh rate means that I remain competitive in games like Valorant, Overwatch, and Hell Let Loose. I've played more games on this monitor this year compared to years past, revisited classics like Half-Life 2 and Black Mesa, gotten into entirely new genres like Total War, and can say with confidence that this has fully reignited my love of gaming. All that to say that this is not without drawbacks. Running games at this resolution at this frame rate does have a cost. My PC does need to be bleeding edge to hit these resolutions and frame rate, and this is a cost that I know not everyone will be able to manage on top of the already pricey monitor. But if you are someone who is in that position and you are looking for a new, transformative way to experience your games, I highly recommend picking one up. This monitor usually retails for around $1,200 to $1,300, but the best thing about it is throughout the entire year, it's been going on sale for as low as $799, which frankly I feel is a steal. This is why, for 2022, I'm picking the Aorus FO48U as my Gadget of the Year.
Hey everyone, KuJoe here to tell you about my 2022 Gadget of the Year. This year, my Gadget of the Year is the AverMedia Live Game Reportable 2 Plus. I really hate the name, but really love the capture card. Reason why I picked this is early in the year when I was making YouTube videos, this really saved my bacon quite a few times. The ability to record onto the device and not needing a separate PC was just a lifesaver at some points. I was doing a series on gaming on Linux, and sometimes OBS did not want to cooperate on Linux. Yeah, that was always fun, but luckily I was able to just plug this in and just hit record right on here, and I was able to record directly to this, no issues. This has helped me a lot in recording game footage for other devices like Chromecast, the Amazon Fire TV stick, devices like that where it's kind of annoyance to have a PC or a laptop hooked up, you know, in your living room or something like that to record to. So being able to just hook this straight up to it, then hook this up to the TV, press a button, record a tiny little SD card. Gotta love it. Convenience factor, can't beat it. Quality, not bad at all. Very, very impressed with it. I know, you know, recording onto a device like this, you're gonna have to deal with compression, but for me, I wasn't doing, you know, high quality recordings. I wasn't doing any professional level recordings. So for me, it worked perfect. Captured the video, captured the audio. Can't complain. So, yeah, this thing is awesome. Can't say enough about it. It does also have pass-through on the back, so if you want, you know, does 4K pass-through even. That's even awesomer. So I can hook it up to my 4K TV. It records at 1080p, but 1080p is perfect for me. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Many of us open our hearts and make donations during the holiday season. But when you donate, how can you feel confident that your donations are really making a big impact? You could do weeks of research to find out, you know, to find charities, to figure out what they do, to figure out how effective they are, how the charity might use any additional money they get, make sure they aren't wrapped up in any controversy. Or you could just visit givewell.org. You'll find free research there and recommendations about the charities that can save or improve the most lives per dollar. GiveWell does all of that research for you, hardcore style, spending over 40,000 hours each year researching charitable orgs, and only directs funding to a select few of the highest impact, evidence-based ones that they have found. GiveWell has donated more than $1 billion through over 100,000 donors, saving over 150,000 lives and improving the lives of millions more. The cool thing is, using GiveWell is completely free. GiveWell doesn't just want to rake in your money, they want to educate donors and allow them to make the most informed and highest impact donations they can, and as many people as they can. Which means all of their research and recommendations are published for free on their website. You don't gotta sign up for anything, and your tax-deductible donation is just allocated to the charity or to the fund that you choose without them taking a cut. Pretty rad. Plus, they'll match your donation up to $100 before the end of the year, meaning that you can make sure even more funds than you're actually donating get donated, which you can't beat that. I honestly recommend just rolling the GiveWell Top Charities Fund, the charities that GiveWell has determined to be the most effective each quarter. and they do evaluate that each quarter, which is interesting, so that your donation is divvied up to the best places. Just head on over to givewell.org/epos to donate and choose YouTube, and then enter EPOS at checkout to make sure that your donation is matched. As always, I do hope you enjoyed this episode of our gadget of the year, our Shillsmas, as I'm calling it. Check out everyone's channels linked in the description down below. And like I said, go check out the Game of the Year video over on Lost Saves to see what me and a bunch of other Discord community members have to say about games for this year. Join us on Discord, discord.gg/EposVox, and remember to be kind, rewind.